This conference will now be recorded.
So before that, like when since the time people are joining in, Siva, you had some question earlier, right? You're talking about on that day.
Yeah, that's right. So, friend, can I share my screen with you? Is it possible?
I'll see. You can share.
You want to be presenter,
Okay.
Seema?
Yeah, I'm just trying to select. It gives me three options: share from cloud or tablet, share from web, and share from whiteboard. I'm not sure which one to select.
You can choose share from web. That's okay.
Share from web. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's visible now.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So, Arun, this is the data setup data that you had given us to configure those steps in the tenant, right? So I tried to, and this is the hierarchy: cost supervisor, cost center, and location hierarchy.
We can only see your go-to meeting, Seema, not that step
Oh,
page.
okay. Uh, Do I need to share the link with you? It's giving me some link here. Or maybe I'll just send it to you on mail or
Uh, so like while you shared, did you choose that application or did you choose the window? Or I mean screen or
uh,
window?
the no, it just asks share on web, and after that it gives me a URL.
URL.
One second, let me share a file.
Okay, because you have joined on a desktop application, right?
Yeah.
So you would have direct option to share the screen. Like at the top, there'll
Um,
be three options. Like one is the mute, one is the share your screen, and one is share your webcam.
share. Okay, let me try this again. No, I'm not getting any option here. Should I join in from the web then?
Yeah, you can do. So you would have got the mail, right? So you can join from the web and then you can share because then it's pretty much
Okay,
straightforward.
okay. Let me try that.
Hello.
Yeah.
Arun, we can briefly summarize what we completed. One is SCM and second is reporting part, right?
Yeah. Now with reporting, we have started.
Mm-hmm.
So reporting, there's like another thing which is calculated field, which is pending. So once that will be done, like you will be well aware of the reporting methodologies as well.
So how many sessions is remaining in reporting?
So reporting like another two sessions and you'll be well aware with the calculated fields and everything.
Okay.
So post that we will move into the integration side.
integration sides. And what about other functional
So,
understanding like compensation and attendance leave, all
so
that?
compensation is like all done, right? You know everything
Mm.
about the compensation. Once we
Grading
have,
part and all that.
yeah, that is the part of compensation, that grades, profiles, allowances, and everything. So then,
Mm-hmm.
like once this integration and this HCM part is done, then we'll go for the like specific modules like time tracking, payroll, benefits, and all those things.
Okay.
And now we can see a screen.
Hello.
Yeah, now we can see your screen.
Okay. So can you see
Yeah,
the Excel sheet? Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah,
this is the setup data, and this is the hierarchy: supervisor, cost center, and practice.
correct.
Okay, so what I was trying to do is basically I was trying to get an idea on how exactly we do it during the implementation process. So I'm assuming that this is the template that needs to be filled up by the client. They will be
Yeah,
providing this data in this format, right? So now
yeah,
I added this one additional column for supervisory org. Now the thing is, when we give the template to them, these employees will be mapped to a particular department as far as the client is concerned.
yeah,
Like William belongs to some department, Chris belongs to some department. So here, what we are calling a supervisory org in Workday is actually the departments to which these employees belong.
correct.
Am I correct? Okay.
Yeah,
So what we are saying is William belongs to this department, practice of tech. Chris
yeah,
belongs to this department. Okay.
correct.
So now Glenn is manager for William. So Glenn is the manager for this supervisory or practice of tech.
Yeah,
Right? Okay. So here in the org chart, this one I drew based on that data provided. So we are saying Chris is the CEO for practice org management, because we said at the CEO level there has to be one level up, right?
correct,
Which will be like
correct.
a dummy value. So
Yeah,
this practice of management is basically the topmost dummy value for Chris CEO, because above him there's nobody else. Is that based on this hierarchy?
uh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Okay, so this is the hierarchy that was given to us.
Yeah,
So if you see, Chris belongs to practice of management, and then again there is one record for Chris for practice of exec,
correct.
because he is the CEO. So we are saying at the topmost level there is a CEO, and above that we need one more supervisory org, which will be kind
Yeah,
of a dummy org to which Chris has to be mapped.
correct.
Okay, so then practice of management is going to be the dummy org for Chris,
Yeah,
and practice of exec, is that Chris belongs to practice of exec, or Chris is the manager for this practice of exec?
this is the manager of this.
Okay, so he is the manager for practice of exec, but he belongs to practice of management.
Yeah, because as I told you, right, the manager is always hired one level above.
Okay, okay. So that means, okay. So in that case, for this particular diagram, what I have done is basically employees who belong to that department. So if we see Chris, Chris belongs to practice of management. I have not taken like supervisory organization at this point. So
Okay,
Manpreet belongs to practice of exec. So which means that Chris is the supervisor of or manager for this supervisory organization?
No, so that now you have changed the whole concept, Seema. That's the problem. So the biggest thing with Workday is you don't have to like don't think on the terms of like departments or kind of thing. There's only one philosophy in Workday, and that is the manager will always be hired one level above, and the designing for supervisory org will always start from dummy, right? You should not change that. That's first thing. Second, there is no supervisory organization for employees who are not managers. That's another thing, right? So suppose if you take our example of Monica, you should not like segregate it or separate it out in this sense. Okay, it should always start with, like, if you go to the data hierarchy part, it should always start with practice org management, and then it should go with practice org exec, and then it should go with practice org tech and practice org finance, and in the right side it likes practice org HR, and below that R&D and organization IT, right? That is the only supervisory chart which has to be taken care to. That's first thing. Second, always write down employees in the organization where they are hired. Don't write down employees as a separate thing, but always write down to get the complete feel of organization chart. Always write down employees where they are hired, not not like
Supervisory org.
not like where they like how they are reported or a separate entity inside that itself. So the chart is always correct, right? So if I go to your org chart and if I see that, if you see, I mean, the first thing is the dummy organization is missing here. That's the first. That's the first thing you have to always make sure that you start with the dummy organization,
So this
right?
is the
So
dummy
that
org,
is,
practice org
yeah.
management.
So then below that there is another org which is the like the second org where Chris is manager,
So
and that's why
that's
I'm saying,
practice.
like, if you
Hmm.
segregate your supervisory org in terms of employees, you will be always like, it will always be a confusion, right? So don't segregate your organization in terms of employees, only segregate your organization in terms of managers, right? So now
Because
let's say that,
sorry, Arun, because the reason I'm saying is when we typically drop an structure for any organization, usually we will have employees belonging to which department. I'm just saying, like, not in workday terms, but I'm saying that if you look up an
yeah,
organization structure, then we will have, let's say, if we pull up an organization structure, so we will have, let's say, Monica and Gaurav. So Monica is reporting to Purvi, Gaurav is reporting to Rahul. Now, Monica belongs to which department and Gaurav belongs to which department? So, how do we interpret this in workday terms? Like here, what I'm putting, Monica, she is recruiter for practice of R&D. Should we be putting the department, or okay, Monica is not a manager, so let's say Purvi is a manager for Monica, so Purvi belongs to practice of HR. She is not
okay,
a manager, she belongs to practice of HR.
correct.
So she's a manager for practice of R&D because
That's
her
what I'm saying.
reporting.
That's why I'm saying, like, Seema, the thing is, like, you got it right. I'm not questioning about the understanding, but what I'm saying is representation of organization hierarchy in Workday is pretty much different from any other legacy or any other cloud applications, right? So once you will go into the organization chart of Workday, and then once you'll compare it, it will be all different from what you are seeing here, right? Now let me do one thing, like, I will take the control and I'll share my screen and I'll create the organization chart, that how it looks like and how it should be interpreted on paper once you are creating your supervisory organization hierarchy. Okay,
Okay, okay.
yeah, so that I do. So let me just open Excel sheet.
Do you want me to send this sheet to you on WebEx itself, Arun, so you can make the changes on this sheet?
I'll share this sheet, which I'm creating, and I'll share this organization chart
Okay,
as
okay.
well. Not a problem. So now I'll take this example, I'll just remove all those things. Okay. So now when we have to create an organization hierarchy, what we have to do is we only worry about the organization first. Just forget about all the employees in the system. Since you have the organization chart ready, right, with the name, forget about all the employees. Just only worry about the organization name. So in our case, let's say my first organization is practice org management, right?
Mm.
So my first organization would be this. You don't have to worry about like who is the manager, who is the employee. Just totally forget about it. Initial level. Just only put down the like organization names which are there, which you have finalized post your organization setup and data. Once you have organized that, just only put the names like this. So now we have practice org tech. We have practice org. That's the first thing you have to do. Okay.
Okay.
That you just initially just worry about the people who are your like what is the organization name. That's it. Initial level, that is the first thing you have to do. That only worry about your organization structure and not about the managers and employees. Right? Now,
Oh,
once you have this, so is this making sense till now? Forget about everything else, like whether employees belong to department, division, anything like that. Just this is the first thing, right? That is what your initial level of supervisory organization charting process should be. Okay. Now, once this is done, then start identifying like who are the managers of which organization. So forget about this org. We are not worried about it. Right now, we are just focusing on the manager's name. So Chris is the manager of practice org executive, right?
mm.
Correct.
Yeah.
For tech, it's Glenn. For finance, it's Kristen. For practice org HR, it's Preet. Right? Till now, is that making sense?
Yeah.
So now you can understand like for which organization who is the manager. Now what does this represent? This represents, now I'll take this column and will write down the employees next to the organization. Now for this organization, which person will be hired in this organization?
Chris.
Chris only, right? So for here, I'll write down the employee name as Chris. Now for this organization, practice org executive, how many people will be hired?
Glenn and Manpreet.
Exactly. Now for Glenn, so who all
Christian.
people are reporting to Glenn, we'll see. William and Kristen is reporting to Glenn, right? So here, the employees in this org will be Kristen and William, right?
Yeah.
Is that making sense?
Mm-hmm.
For Manpreet, who all are reporting to him? It's Purvi and Rahul. That's it. Now in Christian organization, who's reporting to Christian? It's Christiana. That's it. Yes. Cool. It's like Monica and Rahul. Okay, right? So now
Yeah.
your this organization tells you that where the person is hired and where the person is managing the organization. Getting it?
Okay.
Is that making sense?
Yeah.
So that is how always you have to create your supervisory organization, because this is the only way Workday will reflect in the system. What happens is, because I mean, since we know HCM, we know applications, we know that there are departments, there are divisions, and that is how it is being configured in other systems. But when we try to when we try to match it up with Workday, that is where Workday is a bit different in terms of, not in terms of like hiring person, but in terms of creating that chart or creating the structure in the organization. But whenever you'll open a Workday system, that is the only way you will see in the system, okay, this is the way your chart is created, your things are created. And with this, now whenever you will go for this chart, it will be easier for you to hire people in the system. That you will know. First of all, you will create these organization structures, right? That create supervisor, then create subordinate, create subordinate. Once you have this, then in each organization, you will know whom to hire in this, right? So now here, if you open the practice org management, you know that only I have to hire Chris here. If I go to practice org executive, I have to make the manager as Chris, but hire Glenn and Manpreet here, right? So that is the best approach whenever you go for the organization hierarchies creation in terms of Workday implementation. And that's the exact way how we load into our iLoad templates. What we do is like, first of all, we'll write on the supervisory orgs. And then once we are putting in the employee information in front of them, we will tell for this particular organization, they are the employees. And for this organization, they are the managers. Is that making sense?
So Arun, when we set up this supervisory organizations
Yeah.
manually, so then from the template that we receive from the client, basically we will first take the org hierarchy from the. We won't look at the supervisors or employees. We will first look at the organizations or the.
No, client will not tell you the organization name, right? There is nothing called organization name. What we tend to take up from the customers is that, okay, who are the managers in your organization? Okay. With that, I mean, how we map it from the data is like we tell, okay, so now mind these many people are belonging to Workday. Fine. So Workday head is suppose ABC is the Workday head. So first organization name would be Workday. That is what we tell to the customers that, okay, first organization will be like Workday Global Head, and then subordinate it can be like Workday India, Workday US, or anything like that. And in Workday India, it's like Workday Technical, Workday Integration, Workday Functional, Workday Financials, all terms of that. We don't get the supervisory organization structure from clients. We always get the name of the managers, and using managers, we tend to create our organization hierarchy.
But Arun, even if we get the manager names from them, they will still give us data about the departments for the employees and the managers who are handling that department, right? Like
They
for
will tell you.
example, so for example, let's say in this case, William is, let's say William is in Department One, and Glenn
Yeah.
is the manager for Department One. But again, this question I had asked earlier also. I mean, I know how Workday functions, but how do you, I mean, what is the reasoning that you provide the client to set it up this way in Workday? Because what the client will do is, William is in Department 1, and Glenn, being the manager, is also in Department 1 because he's manager for Department 1, as far as client is concerned. But Workday says that manager has to go one level up, which means Glenn is in Department 2.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Just don't get confused. Like if Glenn is hired in department two, don't get confused that he's in department two. It's just that his manager is managing department two. He's hired in that. Let's say take an example that Glenn is handling the workday practice. Just I'm taking an example that Glenn is handling the workday practice and he's reporting to Chris, who is handling all the cloud technology, that is Salesforce, Workday, or anything, right? So Chris is the boss for cloud technology, and Glenn is reporting to Chris. So Glenn will be hired in the organization called cloud technology. Is that making sense? Right? But when we talk to the customers and tell them that this is how we do, that is what we tell to the customers. That see in Workday, it starts from the manager. Your department will start from your manager. That okay, Glenn is managing Workday, and then William is reporting to Glenn. That is how it is. But in Workday, the structurization is done in such a way that the employee, irrespective of whether he's a manager or not, will always be hired in the organization where his manager is managing to, right? So in our case, like Glenn is reporting to Chris. If you go to this chart, Glenn is reporting to Chris. So that is why he'll always be hired in the organization called practice org executive, right? But when we talk about things like practice org tech, okay, so from here, Glenn, Christian, and William are a part of practice org tech in terms of management and employees. That is how we explain to the customers. And that's how like Workday is designed, and that's exactly thing we replicate to the customers. See, our structuring is done in such a way that a manager will always be hired one level above. I mean to say that he's always hired in the organization where his manager resides, right? So that is straight away we tell to the customers. I mean, and we tell that see, your reporting will not change. Whatever your legacy system had, nothing will change. But just the structure that a manager will be always hired a one level above. That is the straightforward mechanism we tell to the customers.
Okay, so what we are saying is this is how Workday handles the setup. So, but this is internal to or inherent to Workday. But as far as their requirements are
Exactly.
concerned, that their requirement is not going to change. We are still going to show Glenn
Exactly.
in practice of tech as far as reporting is
No, we are
concerned.
not. That's what I'm saying. We are not showing to practice, or we are just saying that Glenn is managing the practice of tech. So always Glenn name will reflect in the practice of tech organization, right? It will always be at the top that Glenn is the manager of practice of tech.
Will he be counted as a headcount in the report?
No, he'll always be counted as the manager of the organization and nothing else, not as the member of the organization.
Okay. But haven't you had any clients like maybe tell you that, let's say payroll manager, right? So if it's a payroll manager, then all his payroll executives are in the payroll department. Now there are 4 payroll executives in the payroll department, and there is one manager, making it a headcount of total of 5. When I pull up the report right now, it shows me who all are in the payroll department, 5 people, including manager. So,
That's
but
what
if we are
That's what
not
I'm saying. So whenever we pull out the reports in the system, whenever we pull out the report, it's always like we include the manager name also into the organization, right? So that when we are creating a report, I mean, typically that's how we explain to the customers that see, your manager will not be counted as an employee of that particular organization, but will always be called as the supervisor of that organization. That is a straightforward thing we tell them. But how you can manage, because all those payroll and everything is managed by the cost center, right? So if Glenn, even though Glenn being like hired in practice or executive, if he's assigned to the cost center called payroll, and all those 4 executives who are into the payroll are assigned to the cost center payroll, then all the 5 people costing will always be calculated into cost center called payroll, right? So costing will never change. It's just about the hierarchy part in terms of employees showing up into the system. Because if you have aligned every one of them to the cost center payroll, then your reporting in terms of money, costing, revenue, and everything will always come under the part of the cost center payroll only, right? And that is why it is segregated, that cost center is a separate thing and supervisory organization is a separate thing. Getting it? So in terms of accounting and accounting, payroll, costing, and everything, we always take into consideration the cost center. But when we talk about the hierarchy, like who is reporting into whom and who is managing which organization, we talk about the supervisory organizations.
Okay. But Arun, I'm still not convinced because I mean, I'm talking only about headcount, not cost center. So my requirement is I want to know how many people are in the payroll department. The
There are
manager
only
of the
four people,
payroll
right?
department.
There are only four people, right?
No,
Because
no.
those,
This is before, like before Workday gets implemented. I'm saying that in my payroll department there are 4 employees plus manager, which makes it total headcount of 5 people. So there is one manager in
okay,
payroll department and 4 employees who report to the manager. So
okay,
whenever I pull up a report till date, I have always had a head count of 5, including manager. So how many people in the payroll department? 5 people.
okay.
So how do I do that in Workday then?
You cannot do it. That's what I'm saying. Because employees will be only treated in the organization they are hired at. So either you can tell it as a restriction, or you can tell that is as a like. I can tell that is as something like which is a limitation. But typically, what happens is whenever you pull out and that's the flexibility when you create a report, right? When you're creating a report, you can create your calculated fields and everything and count the number of employees by including the manager in that organization, right? That is the flexibility what Workday gives when you create your custom reports. Like when you're generating the data, when you're sending the data to somebody that, okay, how many people are working in a payroll department, you can include the manager in that as well and then show them as an employee and create your data, right?
Okay. Okay. No, I understand, but that's what I mean. How do you convince the client of that? So, okay, okay.
That's how we convince, right? If you want to get the data, we'll pull that data in that sense only, right? Client just need to see like the report output, correct? It doesn't
Hmm.
matter how in the background you're storing it, right? Just matter to them, okay, how many people are there in the payroll? If I include the manager as well, these many people are there in the
Okay, okay, got it, Arun. Thanks.
yeah. So yeah, you can
Harun,
yeah,
uh, actually, I have some confusion in this.
yeah, please.
So for example, I have two executives, HR executives. One is in Delhi and one is Pune.
Okay,
And I have created supervisory organization named called HR executive.
okay.
So should I have to create two different supervisory organizations for different locations?
No.
So how I can
While hiring person, you can tell their location as Mumbai and
no,
Delhi.
both are managers.
Yeah, if see, that's what I always told you. If there are the number of managers, that many supervisory organization has to be created.
So the
If they both
name
are the
should be of
managers,
what?
so
So
you can
name
say
of that
practice HR.
organization.
Can be like practice HR executive 1 and practice HR executive 2, or practice HR executive Delhi and practice HR executive Mumbai. It
So
doesn't
in
matter much.
case if in case I need a organization chart on the basis of location. So
No, see,
example, I need a organization chart for Mumbai. So can I get that?
no, see, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there is no organization chart in terms of Mumbai. There is always organization chart being created in the some terms of reporting, right? Supervisory
Mhm.
organization. That's why I always tell you, supervisory organizations that are created in the system is always based on the number of managers, nothing
Actually,
else.
what you are explaining, that is a reporting chart. Actually, organization chart, what we understand is like the company name on top, then what are the locations
No,
at the
no, no, no,
second
no,
level, what are the departments in particular locations,
no.
then what are the designations working, that will be a
So
organization chart in our
whenever
end.
No, no. So whenever I talk about organization, I always talk about the supervisory organization chart and nothing else.
Mhm.
Because in Workday, there is only one chart related to organization, and that is related to supervisory organization charting. Okay, fine. These many people are the managers. This is how they are reporting into the system. That's it. Right? There is nothing called reporting chart. There's nothing called anything else. It's always about supervisory organization chart. And whenever we talk about the supervisory organization, we always talk about the number of people and the number of managers in your organization. That's it.
Actually, this type of query we are getting from the client. So we think this can be a limitation of Workday or
This cannot be like, you can see what happens is so once like so I I mean, I'm coming to your question that you want to create a report on the location,
Hmm.
right? So in
Hmm.
terms of location, what you want to create, that's one thing, right? You want to
Hmm.
create how many people are in the system, how many managers are there in the system, right?
Hmm.
That's what.
Hmm.
So what
Hmm.
you can do is like, suppose you have to create a report on like the number of organizations which are created in the system. Create your report, pull in all your supervisory organization data, and put in the filter that location is Mumbai,
Okay.
right? So you'll always get all those all the supervisory organization whose primary location is Mumbai,
Okay.
right? So there's no that's what I'm telling you. There is no restriction on that. It's just that you have to apply the logics in creating your reporting, that how you can pull out the exact data what they need. So similarly taking your question, right? So whenever you have to pull out all the supervisory organizations of Mumbai location, it's just that create your
Hmm.
report on supervisory organization and put in the filter that primary location is Mumbai. So you'll only
Hmm.
get the supervisory organizations whose primary location is Mumbai.
And that report, I can pull the report. That is okay. But in terms of chart, in terms of organization tree, that can I get?
No, no. In
Okay.
terms of organization chart, it's always based on your hierarchy, which is
Super.
being reflected in the system,
Okay. It's
right?
all about the supervisory organization.
Exactly. Whatever has been created, they will always show you the priority based on the chart which has been created.
Okay. Okay, Arun. Got it.
Typically, in any other system, you will not see this organization chart. If you go to Oracle, if you go to Salesforce, PeopleSoft, anywhere, this organization chart concept was not there, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
always like people working in this department and working in this department, and that's where Workday has like you can say transformed a bit and created an org chart hierarchy to just see that which person is reporting to which person. That's the only way. That's the only difference they initially did in terms of organization hierarchy showing up.
Okay.
To be very frank, if I say that, I'll say that is not a limitation, but that is an additional feature which is being provided by Workday.
No, we have some applications, local applications, that they are providing organization chart
Yeah.
as well as reporting chart.
Yeah. So now
So,
what happens is like, that's what I'm saying, right? Now what happens is like, so since Workday is also evolving, people are getting the idea from Workday and other applications, and they will definitely transform. I'm not denying
mhm.
that there may be tomorrow there may be another HCM application which is way better than Workday.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah, yeah,
nobody knows,
100%.
right? What will happen,
Yeah.
and nobody knows. So that is
Mm-hmm.
definitely gonna come into the market like today. So it started with Orkut, but right now Facebook has taken the market, and there is no Orkut in the system, right? And at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
time,
yeah.
it was always Orkut
Right,
in the system. So that's how
right, right.
it's definitely that's gonna work in IT structure, right? But that's the
Mm-hmm.
difference which Workday had created in terms of hierarchy showing up. Now people
No,
are
but
evolving, getting different things. But yeah,
mhm.
maybe
No,
Workday will
understood.
also want, but Workday cannot change this. Reason is that their core criteria is based on that. If they change this, their whole application has to be changed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just
This
not
is
that the
the,
organization chart. It's just that their
yeah,
core is based on this only.
got it, got it. This is a basic logic where the workday is working.
Exactly. Exactly. So that is why we say that Workday is an organization management system. I mean, organization driven system. That until and
Mm-hmm.
unless you don't have the organization in the system, you'll not be able to do anything in the Workday.
Actually, is a, every organization is like object.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that
Yeah,
is totally being driven by the person who is managing it. That is why you're
mm.
only gonna create your organization chart.
Yeah, 100%.
So any other question?
One question, Arun.
Yeah.
So, the practice org exec, when we create the supervisory organization for this, we are giving the primary location as SFO.
Yeah.
And then we hire Glenn and Manpreet in this organization,
Yeah.
right? And so, when we are hiring Glenn and Manpreet, their default location is going to be SFO.
Correct.
Okay, and then we go ahead and change the locations respectively. Indianapolis for
No,
Glenn and
no. You have the option like when you hire the person in the system, you have the option that you get inherited location or you could put in the new location, whatever is there in the system. While hiring
huh.
itself, you have both the options.
Right, right. So then we can go and change that location over there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
right? Any other thing? Because see, this is all about HCM. Like once you understand this philosophy, there's nothing which is pending there in the Workday system in terms of HCM configuration. If you get like how people are hired, how organization is created, how they're tied up, how the locations are, how their cost center companies are. If you get this, you are done. There's no confusion, there's no problem in creating an organization hierarchy and having people into the system. But if you get this wrong, it will always be a wrong tenant setup in the system.
Mm-hmm. Actually, this Workday is totally changed the picture. What we are doing in India, we are taking employee name, what are the company, what is the location of this employee, what is department, designation. If you go beyond grade, cost center, and we implement this as a hierarchy.
Yeah,
So if on the basis of that, reporting is also said, this person is reporting to this. So on the basis of reporting, we create an organization chart, reporting chart.
correct.
So
So
this
that
is
is why
this
what
is this is
happens.
totally changed. So you know,
That is why what happens is like in Workday, if I specifically talk about Workday, it's always good for people who doesn't know anything about HCM.
Yeah,
that is the
because it's
problem
a bit
now.
confusing
Right,
otherwise.
right. What happens is like since if you have the experience in HCM domain and knows lot many things about it, you'll always tend to like compare Workday with any other technology, right? And
Mhm.
what happens is like when we went for a Workday training by the Workday trainers itself, the first thing is they told us like forget everything what you have learned till now in HCM domain. There is no similarity between Workday and any other thing. So just throw everything which is there in your mind for HCM and just focus on how Workday is delivered, right? Because as soon as you start comparing it, there's not so. I mean, terminology is same. The cost center, the company, the reporting, everything is same, but their way of representation is totally different from all other legacy systems. So that is why it's always easier for people who are from a non-HCM background to learn Workday and understand Workday in a much easier manner rather than people who are experienced in other HCM domains.
I don't so.
Shiva,
So when
Shiva, what to do then?
No,
so we have to do a
it's very
180 degree
simple.
mindset now.
It's very simple. Forget what you've learned.
Okay, so one more question. So this data sheet that we have, considering like this is a sample data sheet, but basically
Yeah,
this is what we are going to get the client, right? This is the template that we are going to get the
correct.
data. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, as far as that the org structure is concerned, which you just came up with, the org name also has to be there on this sheet, right?
What happens is like typically what happens is like I mean since this is all new to any customer, right? When we talk about the supervisory organizations in the system, no other system would have implemented it in such a way, right? So what happens is we just get them like I mean there's one column you can add in, but that is just to get the information that is on which departmental people are working in, whether in Workday, whether in Salesforce, or whatever the way they are working in. And then like when we talk about Glenn, so suppose Glenn is working in Workday, and since he is like the topmost boss for Workday, right? So there's no other person who is above him who is managing the Workday practice, correct?
No, no. The way the client will give us is William is in department workday, not Glenn. I'm talking about
No,
the client, like when they
that's
give
what
it to
that's what
us.
I'm saying. That's what. So client will, I mean, the client will give the way you ask the question, right? That all five people are a part of payroll, correct?
Hmm. Hmm.
They'll just tell Glenn, for Glenn also it's Workday only,
Hmm.
right? Is that making
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's exact.
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
what will happen is we can understand, okay, for suppose for Chris, they say maybe cloud, let's say cloud, right? So we know that Glenn is, so how we understand and how we cater to this requirement is, right? Looking at this, we know that Chris is the boss and handling the whole organization called cloud, right? The department called cloud. Now inside that, Glenn is reporting to Chris and Glenn is managing the Workday practice. So my first supervisory organization name would be somewhat like Workday, correct? Now if I say that maybe Kristen is reporting to Glenn and she's again in the Workday practice, but she's a manager. So my second level of, so my organization will look something like this: Workday, and for Kristen, I'll write like Workday org one, or maybe whatever the name I say, right? And then once we create this chart and present it to the customer, then customer may come up and say, okay, Arun, do one thing for Workday org one, just rename it and do something like this. Getting it?
Sorry,
They will
Arun,
not.
can you repeat that?
Yeah, what I'm saying is, like, if you look at this, like I just take three example, that Chris is the boss of cloud. Let's say our company name is cloud. Forget about this practice or management and everything. Like, my top level two organizations are cloud. Let's say cloud one and cloud two. One is dummy and one is the main organization, right? And then looking at this, I can understand like Workday practice is totally being owned by Glenn, right? Is that making sense?
Actually, what Arun is saying, Seema, we have to create a dummy any name in as per the data. After the creation, we'll rename as per the client's requirement, right, Arun?
If they don't say,
Hmm.
that will be the name which will always be there in the system. So
Um,
you have to create the names of supervisory organizations. Client will not give you. That's what I need to say.
okay, yeah. Oh, I got that. Okay, but the department name, that we will be anyway putting that in the system, right?
No, we'll not be putting department name, right? There's no department word, as everything is related to supervisory organization. So that is why while creating our supervisory organization, we will use the department name. Like, we'll say Workday, then we'll say Workday org one, Workday org two, Workday org three, something kind of that.
Arun, we can create a custom organization in this
Exactly, exactly.
as a
Yeah.
department, and put it this
No, then,
requirement in that.
but again, see, it's always people will be hired in supervisory organization. They
Yeah,
will
right.
not be hired in any of the custom organizations, right? So whenever
Yeah.
till the time you don't create a supervisory organization, there is no point of creating custom organizations or cost centers or companies in the system.
No, no, that is okay for getting a report. I want report. If employee is working in particular department, show me the all the numbers. So, for the filtering, can we use the custom hierarchy as a
Then
department?
you can create a custom, or you can create their hierarchy, and then like in the supervisory organization as organization assignments, assign those
Hmm.
people to those custom organizations as well.
Seema, this is your query, I think.
Um, why I'm confused back now? No. So, okay, so Arun, when you typically go in for the implementation, the client is going to give their organization structure. Okay, not the
Yeah,
employees or anything, just the organization structure. Like they have a marketing department, HR department, finance department, sales, and then again on top of that, executive board or whatever. And then maybe below sales department, they will have something like further subdivisions, maybe,
yeah.
right? So for the client, each of these employees are belonging to one department.
No, each of these employees may belong to like in one department there can be like 4 employees or 40 employees or like 400 employees, right?
Yeah. But what
Yeah,
I'm saying is, each employee is mapped to one department.
yeah,
Like William might be mapped to marketing, Chris might be mapped to sales, Glenn might be mapped to HR, like that,
correct.
right? So they have their own department names.
Yeah,
So now when we are configuring this as a supervisory organization, if
yeah,
William belongs to the HR department, that is the name given to us by the client,
yeah,
human resources. So then we are going to name the supervisory organization as human resources, right?
yeah, correct. That's why I took
Okay.
this example, right? That they will tell you the name as Workday. So my first org name would be Workday, and subordinates can be like Workday org one, Workday org two, and Workday org three, something like that,
Okay. Got
right?
it, got it. But only thing is the manager is going to be one level up.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, Arun, got it.
Right. So any other question?
No, Arun. Till now,
I think
this is brainstorming session.
today Deepak and Bala has not joined. Sorry, Vivek and Bala has not joined, right?
Vivek,
Vivek
I
is
think he
there.
said, yeah, he said he's going on some trip, right? So he won't be able to attend the session.
Okay. All right. So I know it's a bit confusing, but what I'll suggest now is, like, since we have this Saturday and Sunday with you all, so what I'll suggest is wrap up this organization hierarchy, right? Leave that custom reporting part till Monday. Get this thing in your system.
Now, actually, creating a supervisory organization is, very technical. If you want to find the name, so
That's what I'm saying. Like,
little bit
forget
difficult.
this. Like, correct. That's what I'm saying. Forget this
Hmm.
thing. Since I gave you the organization name, supervisory org, and manager things, forget this thing. Uh,
Hmm.
like, make things complicated for you, like putting in the departments.
Hmm.
Okay, and then think of writing your organization hierarchy with the names
No,
as well.
no. Actually, I am thinking if I have a employee count near about 5,000, and there nearby we you can say 500 managers. So creating a supervisory organization with different names and planning for that is actually a big task.
Correct. And that should happen. Like, that's why the functional consultants like invest a lot of time talking to the customers, understanding their requirement, putting in the names, in between sharing those sheets with the customers as well, get things done, and then they upload it into the system.
Okay, final verification of sheet is done, then the system will
Yeah,
data
and
will
it
upload it to the
always, like,
system.
and that is why, like, you can see that functional consultants are the one who always interacts with the customers on a day-on-day basis, because this is the core part of the configuration of the system, right? If you don't get it
Okay.
right, the system will fail altogether. So that is why it is
Okay. Hello.
Arun, are you there?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. And one more question was, so when we are creating, the first step is basically creating the locations and then the cost centers and all that. And then we come to creating the supervisory organization,
Correct.
right? So when we are creating these initial steps, we will be given the implementer ID to create all these steps,
Yes,
or
yes, yes.
okay, so we'll use the implementer ID to create all
So
these
because,
steps.
I mean, see, that's what I'm saying. So whenever you are setting up a fresh tenant for a client, you'll always be working in a partner organization.
Hmm.
So when you're a part of partner organization, then only you can become the implementers. Because no other company who is not partnered with Workday will be able to do the tenant setup for the customer.
Okay.
Okay. And so once we complete all these implementation steps using the implementer ID, including creation of the supervisory organizations, right?
Yeah,
Even that will be created with the implementer ID.
yeah.
Okay. So only the when the hiring starts, that has to be done by some other ID, like the initial one.
So typically what happens is, like, functional setup, for functional setup, you don't need an implementer account. You get it, but for functional setup, you always do the security administrator role, because that is the only person who can assign the roles to each person, like assigning role of manager or like any compensation director, security partner or anything. Only the security administrator of the system will do that. So typically this tenant configuration at the initial level is always done by Logan McNeil. Every person who is a functional consultant and while doing the tenant configuration will use Logan McNeil ID and password to do the tenant configuration.
Okay. And then once the tenant configuration is done,
Once the tenant configuration is done and once you start hiring people, then you will log into particular manager and then will approve it and then will, like, further processing will be done. So then every time it will keep on changing, like who's logging in, who is initiating the process, and kind of that.
Okay.
But typically what happens is when you use the implementation suite, that is the template, you don't have to log in with so many people. The template would automatically hire people, right? So for uploading those templates in the system, you have the implementer account. Because even the security administrator cannot run the implementation suites, that is the iloads. Only the implementers of the tenant can has the access to create the templates and upload it to the system. So while you generate the iload sheets and you upload it, then only you need a implementer account to upload those sheets and get that processed. And while you use your implementer account and use those iload sheets, you don't have to log in with multiple people. Everything will be automatically processed in that Excel sheet, and people will be hired automatically without any approvals.
So even the security configurations will be done by the implementer, or that will be a separate role again, security administrator.
That is like something which is always created by Workday, security administrator. That is the initial thing which Workday only does. And so using the Logan McNeil, you'll be able to create your accounts and other things in the system, right? So if there is no Logan McNeil in the system, there will be no other person either as implementers or anything in the system.
No, but do we use Logan's account only to create all the security configurations as well, or how does that typically work?
No, Logan will always be there. That's what I'm saying. You can use Logan to do your initial tenant setup, initial configurations like localization, the language setup, and everything. That is all things can be done by Logan McNeil. And then you get your implementer account and you start using your iload sheets. So what happens is I'll just show you one thing. So if you see our tenant, it's like the language has been done as English, right? For this Maria Cardoza, the language is done as English. So what happens is like all the localization settings, everything, how does it look like, the basic dashboards, that like if I log off and if I just do that, if you see this particular logo, the company name, all those things are initially being done by Workday system. I mean the Logan McNeil ID. Once you do this initial configurations, then you use any implementer account or any of your personal accounts to do all those like organization setup, cost center setup, maybe hiring and everything kind of that. So without Logan, you cannot enter into the system and do the initial basic configuration of the Workday tenant.
So who creates the implementer ID? We will only go in and create, or Workday will provide the
Now,
implementer
typically,
ID?
Workday provides the implementer ID for fresh implementations.
Okay, so we have to put in a request that there are like 3, 4 implementers, so please create implementer ID for each one.
Exactly. So they will create for one, and then like that implementer can create multiple implementer accounts for the system.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But what happens is like Workday should know how many implementers are there, who all are working. Until as Workday don't approve that, till the time you can't create that implementer for that particular client.
Okay, okay. Got it. But why are they so restrictive about implementers? Like, I
Because
mean,
I mean only those people who are certified in Workday system can work on the implementation tenant. So they first check whether you are certified or not. If you're not, you cannot be the implementer of the Workday tenant.
okay, okay.
And that is where the restriction is, that the only partner companies can do the implementation, and in the partner companies only the certified guys can do the tenant setup.
We'll have to get a certification also now from Workday.
No, so if you're working If you're working in a client location or if you're working in a service partner company, you don't need certification. But if you're working on a partner system, then you will go for the certification. Like whatever you have learned in this training, you have to go and give the exam. And that's what I told you on the first day, right? That it's a 6 hours exam which you have to attend, do the whole tenant setup, and then Workday will check and they will see whether everything is fine, and then they will either pass you or fail you.
Okay.
But if you're working at a client location, if you're working at a service partner company, you don't have to worry about the certification. You just need to know Workday.
Okay. So right now
Uh,
the only role we can get into is like a service with a service
So
company.
you can apply to the implementation companies, because it's like the implementation companies also hire experienced people and then they send them to the Workday certification. So if you have the knowledge, if you can crack those interviews, even if you're certified or non-certified, they will send you to the certification course. So it's just like I mean, if you have the contacts, or like somehow you get the contacts, pass on to your resume to your recruiter, and the recruiter shortlisted, you can give the interviews and tell them that you know Workday in and out. You handles few maintenance projects in terms of that, and they'll hire you and they'll put you for the certification. So I've seen people who have come from maintenance companies and like client companies, they got into the partner companies and then certified and started working on the projects. It's all
Arun,
about how you.
what is the implementation methodology you guys are following? That example, are you deployed some employee to client location, or it is done on remotely basis?
You asking something?
Yeah, Arun.
Yeah.
What is the implementation methodology the implementation partners follow? Did they deploy some employee on the client place, or they do all this implementation remotely, sitting to their office?
It depends on the customer budget as well. Like if there are bigger customers, then they'll always go for like people sitting in their company. If they're smaller, then
Mhm.
they go for the offshoring model or like remote location setup.
So charges is vary on the basis of
Exactly.
uh,
Onshore and offshore.
okay.
So like while Google was implementing Workday, they had everyone, irrespective of the integration guys, functional guys, testing
Mm.
guys, everybody they put
Mm.
in their own place.
Okay.
So it depends totally on the customer.
Actually, it depend on the budget. That's
Yeah,
okay, Arun.
right. So get this
Mhm.
thing done in the system by Monday, and then like on Monday we'll hire the people in the system, and that will cover your whole functional setup of HCM. So I'll be taking anybody, one of yours organization chart as an example and start hiring people in
Okay.
that. Right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Sure then. See you
Yeah,
guys on
Arun.
Monday. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Arun.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye, Bala. Bye, Anand.
Bye bye. Bye bye.